There we go. Hey, hey, hey. Recently, I went to the grocery store. My son was sick, and I needed to get some orange juice. And so I rushed in. It was late. It had an interesting day. And so my plan was to go in, get the orange juice, and make my way back out. No distractions, just orange juice. As I walked into the store and I turned towards the orange juice aisle, I passed the bakery. And the nice lady that was there, that was setting everything up, she was like just kind of tidying up because the store was getting ready to close, said to me, "We just have some carrot cake that I just put out." And in that split second, my brain said, "You've had a long day. You deserve that carrot cake." And so I walked over and I looked at the carrot cake. Remember, I was coming for juice. That's all I needed. Just juice to get for my son. And I walked in and I looked at the carrot cake and it looked so good. And so I grabbed a piece, right? Because I'm gonna feel comfortable. This is gonna make me feel good. It's gonna lower my cortisol level. It's going to help me feel a certain way. And so I got the carrot cake, and as I started walking away, she said, "Have you tried the pumpkin spice cheesecake?" And I said, "No, I haven't tried that." She said, "You should. It's so good. Everybody's been talking about it." So I got some and I ate it. And as I'm eating, I'm thinking, why am I eating this? Because I'm not hungry, but I was in a mood. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. If you're new to me here on the channel, I am excited that you're here. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health in your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you, we're talking to adults with diabetes, type 2, who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to reverse their diabetes. And tonight, we're continuing our quest to figure out what do we do in those situations. We've been talking about the C.O.P.E model. That's clarify, observe, pause, and execute. And tonight we're talking about that execute phase. And that's the one where we almost find ourselves there, but not quite. Hey, if you're new, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let us know that you are here. If you have questions, go ahead and put those questions in the comments because we'd love to get to those as we move throughout the show. And I welcome you back wherever you are, whatever platform you're joining us from, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitch, whether it's YouTube, of course, here on YouTube, and then on Facebook as well, and LinkedIn. So thank you all for joining us. I do see some folks over there. We're going to say hi in just a minute. And you guys know how we do here on the channel. I've got some monitors that we're going to look at here quickly, so you could see how my blood sugars have been doing over the course of the last several days. And right off to my side here, you'll see my oh, there you go. These are my meters. We'll take a look at those. And of course, right down below me, that is my Dexcom Clarity Report, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. I did see my doctor on Friday, and yay, I was excited to share and talk with him. We had a great conversation. We'll share that with you. Join us in our community meetup, which is coming up on the 31st, right? So if you've not done so, go ahead and sign up for that. Also, as we move through the C.O.P.E model, remember the C.O.P.E model is the model that we're using, C.O.P.E, for putting some structure to the conversation or that little snippet that I just gave. When we find ourselves in a situation, how do we navigate that situation successfully to avoid undoing some of the things that we have been working on, and for us to take control and not let the situation or our emotions take control of us? That's what we're talking about tonight as we move through our discussion. So let's hop over and let's say hello to some of our community members. And let's see, let's grab this one. There we go. No, that's not the one I want. Here you go. So I see Teresa out there. She said, "Hey, doctor and everyone." And then Pamela, "Hello, everyone." Jennifer, howdy. driving home while listening, so won't be able to comment. So Jennifer, just glad that you are with us. Always excited to have you on, as well as the rest of our community members. And so wherever you are, if you find yourself on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, go ahead and drop us a message. Let us know that you are out there and that you are joining us. Let's see, over on, I see a couple of people over there on Instagram, so thank you for joining us as well. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at blood sugars, and then we'll come back and hop into our discussion. Um, let's see, did I say? Oh yeah, so scope model. Let me go back there. So as we are moving into the space, the last several episodes that we've done is explaining, going into each of the different components of the COPE model, C-O-P-E, clarify, observe, pause, and then execute. And so you want to go back and make sure that you're watching those. What I've done is on the YouTube channel, I've created a playlist that combines the heat model and the COPE model. Because remember, those are the models that go together. The reasons that we eat, those triggers, habits, emotions, access, and taste. And then now, how do we manage those comes from the COPE, C-O-P-E. And so there's a playlist. I think it's called How to Deal with Your Emotions. I think that's what I'll pull it up here in a little while so you guys get to see that. But go back and watch that. Last week we did the pause. The week before that we did the observe. The week before that we did the clarify. And then the week before that we kind of introduced the entire process. And then, of course, the heat model that's out there as well. All right, so you'll see there on the screen, my blood sugar is 109 according to my Freestyle Libre. You'll see earlier in the day there was a spike, so we were running below 150, and then the top of that gray line, gray shaded area at the bottom, that is 150. And I try to keep my targets between 70 and 150. Like, I don't want it to go above 150 without me knowing. And you'll see there, as we came into the morning, right around lunchtime, we ate. I'll share with you what I ate. And then that spiked up, and it took till about 3:30 or so before it started coming back down. And of course, now is 109. Okay? And then let's take a look at my Dexcom clarity. And you'll see kind of the same thing. And let me, this one I can actually scroll my finger across so you can see what the numbers actually were as we move through the day. Actually, let's start over here, right? So here we were like 150s coming into the morning, down to 130, and then right around lunchtime we started going up, got up to about 220, and then started coming back down. Okay, so what do you guys anticipate this was right here? So so as I went to lunch, I went down to lunch, and they had spaghetti and meatballs. And I said, I'm not having any spaghetti. I'm having meatballs. So I got meatball, got some meat sauce, went back up to my office, and I ate it, and everything was great. And then I said, I looked in the refrigerator, and right in the refrigerator was a cookie. When we were talking about cleaning up the environment, there was a cookie in there. And so I said, hey, that's not going to be bad, because I didn't eat anything for lunch. And boom, there it is right there. So that's the cookie, by the way. All right, so that's up to about 220. And then it came back down. And what I'm excited about, so for those of you who are out there, you will know that one of the things that I'm excited about in this space is being able to manage blood sugars without medication or minimal medication. And so this was what my body did without any medication. Okay? And so what we want to do is we want to get the body healthy enough so that if we, because we are going to, by the way, eat things that can cause a spike, that it actually comes down. And I want you to see, so this right here, all of this, all the way down to, I think, was it 109 on the other ones, 124? Okay, so that's what we're looking for. All right, so so that's what my meters are showing, or my CGMs are showing. Let's go ahead and let's grab a, and let's go over here. And what I want to do is we're going to look at my, if I can get that to come up. Here we go. We're going to look at my Keto Mojo and my Contour. Remember, the Keto Mojo gives me glucose and ketones, and then of course this guy gives me just the blood sugar. So that's the contour. So let's go ahead and get that. And oh, well, so it looks like we might be just stuck with the Keto Mojo tonight. Ah, there it is. I heard something fall, but I didn't pay attention to what it was. Here we go. So here is, let me get this off the screen. So we're going to get a strip, test strip over here, and get it into the contour. And then the Keto Mojo, there are 2 strips for that one. And I encourage you, if you're out there, if you're trying to deal with metabolic disease, if you are dealing with high blood pressure, blood sugars, any of those things, if you are following along with us, I encourage everyone to get a monitor at least, and then if you can, get a monitor that actually checks ketones. So I'm going to keep this one open because that's the test strip for the ketones. And let's go ahead and get these guys started. And as you guys know, I've become kind of partial to just the Lancet itself. And this is similar to the other one. It's a little bulkier, and we'll see how this one is. But basically, you turn the top off. Usually, this would go into a lancing device. It's a spring-loaded device that you pop it in, and then when you hit the button, this comes out and gives you a finger poke. But I just really kind of find a finger and stick that in there. Okay, so this one is a little thicker than the ones I was using last week, so it doesn't hurt as much, but I don't think it makes as big a I don't get as much blood, but we'll see. Okay, that was pretty good. If you guys remember a couple weeks ago, I was having to stick myself I think I stuck myself 3 times on one of the episodes. All right, so let's see what that is. So 109 here with the Keto Mojo. And then while that's doing, I'm going to make sure I get another drop of blood. And 128 for the contour. And let me pop this on the screen. And you see this is closer to the, right up here. Yeah, right there. It's closer to the Dexcom. So let's go ahead and grab a strip for the ketones. What do you think my ketones are going to be? I would anticipate, well, I'm not going to say what I anticipate, but I had that spike earlier today. So if I had any ketones, they're probably gone. Okay, so we'll let that run, and then we'll come back and look at that here in just a little while. Awesome. So go ahead and pop in what you think my ketones are going to be. If you think you know, you can go ahead and give a guess. Okay. All right. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. All right. So we're talking about the execute part of our C.O.P.E model. And remember what the C.O.P.E model is doing for us. What is it that we are intending to do? And to do this, let's have a little conversation. So most of the issues that we have when it comes to blood sugar has to do with the pillars, right? Insulin, appetite, and sugar. Right? So when we talk about diabetes, and remember, those are the pillars. We decrease insulin, we suppress the appetite, and we reduce sugar. That's it. If we can do those 3 things, then we pretty much have managed our diabetes, and we put our diabetes in remission. In fact, in the office, I have people who've been talking to me over the last several weeks. People who are now into New Year, New You. People have come into New Year, New You. They're doing New Year, New You. They may have had some issues during the summer, and now they're coming back. Or new patients that are coming to see me as we are continuing the New Year, New You process. And one of the things they say to me is that they are surprised, because I asked them, I said, what is the thing that surprises you the most, right? Now that you have good blood sugars, some of them we've actually put them on insulin pumps. Some of them, we've had our conversation. And the conversation I have with a lot of people is the New Year, New You conversation. It's a shortened version, right? We've been doing this each episode. We've been talking about the New Year, New You, but it's a shortened version of New Year, New You, and that is what I teach. And so they go away and they begin implementing New Year, New You, however they're doing it, wherever they start. And once again, let me say that to those of you who are out there who are joining us, catching us for the first time, people who there are people who are in our community that are farther along, okay? And you may be someone that you're just joining, you're just finding the videos, you're just finding the episodes, somebody sent you to the show, and you come in and you're like, oh my God, there's all this stuff down the road. I say start where you are, right? So wherever they are, people are starting. And so when they come back after that first visit, I often say to them, after we've had a conversation, they've gone away, they come back for that second visit, and their blood sugars are better, things look better for them. And there are two questions I ask. Number one is, what has surprised you the most? Actually, three questions I know. So what has surprised you the most about what has happened since we last saw you? Now that you have better blood sugars, now that you're more aware, now that you understand a little bit more about diabetes, what has surprised you the most? I asked them what resonated with them the most in the conversations we've had, right? Because we go through the New Year, New You. And then I asked them what they would like to get from today's visit, right? So there's three questions I asked. And people say to me that they didn't realize, one, what was going on in their body with some of the foods they were eating, right? Because now they see it on the glucose monitor. They didn't realize that their blood sugars were changing so much through the day. And they didn't realize how simpler it is to manage blood sugars than they thought. Now, that one always surprises me. Now, don't you hear what I said? They didn't realize how much easier it is to manage blood sugar than they thought. Because all these years, all the things they've done, it has always been a struggle, up and down, and fighting this and fighting that, and this feeling of depravity, the scarcity mentality that we talked about in one of our shows, right? So there's all this stuff, but they didn't realize how much simpler it was. And so I asked them, I said, well, why do you think now it is simpler than you thought? And the thing that they say to me is, for the first time, they feel like they have control. Now, nothing about the food. It wasn't that, okay, I stopped eating this type of food, or I'm exercising more, or I'm whatever, right? It was that I have more control. I get to decide what I do. And you've heard me say often in this space that we often don't succeed, not because we don't have drive, not because we don't have the desire, not even because we don't have the know-how. We don't succeed because we don't have structure. And the C.O.P.E model, C.O.P.E, the C.O.P.E model is with the idea of giving a structure to manage one of the most important aspects and one of the most important influencers on our diabetes, and that is our emotion and our food. If those two things can be managed, can be controlled, then diabetes, type 2 diabetes, gets better, easier to control. I want you to think about yourself. Think about what your blood sugars would be if you were able to manage those two things. Right? And if you're out there and you struggle with one of those, right? 1 is food, 2 is emotions. I want you to drop it. Just put a 1 or 2 in the comments. 1 or 2. Emotions, food. Emotions, food. Right? I'm going to put both. I'm gonna put both. I'm an overachiever, y'all. Right? I don't like to do things simply. Right? So I'm gonna put 1 and 2. So I'm gonna actually pop that in there. 1 and 2. Boom. 1 and 2. I'll put 1 and 2. There we go. Okay. So if we can manage those two. And so the C.O.P.E model is a way to begin working through how do we take control? How do we get back to the point where we are the ones that are in control? Okay? Now, let me set this up because here it is. Here it is. Here it is. And I don't know why this scenario, this model comes to my mind, but I think it comes from my dad. Right? My dad liked westerns and war movies, and so if you're out there, I grew up watching old movies like Bonanza, Gunsmoke, Big Valley. Anyway, so those kinds of things, right? And so I imagine people who are diabetic, type 2 diabetes, and type 1 too. We bring them in here. So just diabetes in general. And it's kind of like being on the back of a wagon, right? There's a family and they're moving out west. And everybody's on the wagon, and there's a little kid on the back of the wagon. He's got a piece of wood, a piece of stick, and he's got a pocket knife. And he's just whittling on this piece of stick and just minding his own business. And the wagon is kind of going, and it's going up and down the road, over the mountains, and so forth. And it hits a bump, and the kid falls off the wagon. But nobody in the wagon, none of the adults realize that he fell off the wagon. And so for the rest of the movie, you see the kid chasing behind the wagon, trying to get back on the wagon. And just sometimes when he gets just there and his hand's about to grab the wagon moves on. Or it goes down the road or moves a little faster. And so he's kind of winding his way throughout the movie, just running behind this wagon, trying to get back on. And that's the mentality. That's the place that a lot of people find themselves when they're dealing with their diabetes. They feel out of control. They feel alone. They feel that it's always just out of their grasp. That just when they seem to be getting it, something changes. That is a defeating idea. That is an idea that does not empower you. Because everything is out of your control. I have no control over my space, over me. But I want to have you change the scenario. Right? I want to give you a different scenario to use. Because I don't like when people say to me, they fell off the wagon. Or they went off the ranch, or they went off something, went off the rails. And I don't like it, not because I don't like the words. I don't like it because what it does to the person. Because I can see it, I can hear it in their voice. I can feel the defeat. I can feel throw their hands up in the air. I don't like it for what it does for my clients, for my patients, because it puts them in a box that they seem unable to break out of. And so here's the new scenario. Same movie, same kid, but he's on a stagecoach. And the stagecoach is moving, and it comes to a town. And the kid looks around, he looks out, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to get off here." And he gets off the stagecoach, and he hangs out in the town. And he hangs out as long as he wants because he knows either tomorrow or the next day or next month, another stagecoach is coming. And when the stagecoach comes, he gets back on the stagecoach and he goes on his way. I love it. So notice that he decided to get off. He made the choice to get off the stagecoach because he liked where the town was. He saw something in the town that he was interested in. So he got off, got into town, did whatever he did, whatever he wanted to do. And then when he was ready, when the next stagecoach came, he got on the stagecoach and he kept going. This puts the power in your hand. I want you to imagine yourself on the stagecoach, and you are the one coming into the town on the stagecoach. You're the one making the decision to get off the stagecoach. You're the one making the decision to do whatever needs to be done in the town. And you're the one, when the stagecoach comes again, gets to decide when to get back on the stagecoach, and then you go on your way. It is empowering, and it does not matter. It does not matter that the people on the wagon don't know that you got off. Because you get into this town, you make friends, you guys have a good time. Maybe some of them come with you on the stagecoach when you get back on, and you can come back to that stagecoach or to that town when you're ready. Because the stagecoach goes that way, and it goes this way. So the C.O.P.E model is a structure that takes us from the defeating idea to an empowering idea. So I want you to remember that story. I want you to share that with everybody that you know. Now, that's a story I came up with, by the way. Right? I don't know where it came from, but think my dad. Okay? You guys got it so far? All right. Now, having said that, so we've walked through the C.O.P.E model, right? So we clarify. So something happens, and the amygdala takes over. Remember, the amygdala, that's that basal brain. That's the brain that says, I got to get out of here. That's the brain that says, I got to eat. That's the brain that says, I got to do something to make myself feel better. My boss yelled at me. I had an argument with my husband or my wife. Someone in the family died. I'm not satisfied with my life. I'm not satisfied with how I look. I'm not satisfied with my blood sugar. I've had a heart attack. Whatever it is, there is some emotion or some situation that has triggered us, and the amygdala has taken over. And it is ready to do whatever it needs to do to, quote unquote, help you to stay safe. Remember, that's what the amygdala does. So every time you eat out of emotions, every time you go and you and let's include everybody. Every time you go and you drink alcohol, every time you go and you use some drugs, every time you go and spend more money, every time you go and you become promiscuous, whatever the buffering behavior is, it is the amygdala that is in charge there. And the prefrontal cortex, which is the thought brain, there's a disconnect between it and the amygdala. And so what we want to do is we want to give the prefrontal cortex the ability to now come over the amygdala and modify it. That says to the amygdala, hey, I know you're hurt, but you don't have to eat. I know that you miss mama or daddy or cousin or auntie, but you don't have to do that buffering behavior. I know that right now you don't want to feel whatever that is, but we can do something else. The prefrontal cortex is the thought process. It is the thinking part of the brain that covers the amygdala that says, hey, we don't have to keep doing this. And so the very first thing we learned was to pause, right? We paused so that the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex can connect again. We pause, and then we observe, where is it in my body? How am I feeling? Am I feeling tense? Is my head hot? Right? Am I mad? Am I anxious because I feel it in my stomach? Butterflies in my stomach? Am I frustrated because my fists are clenched and my jaws are clenched? Right? Where am I feeling it? So we clarified what's going on. It's not hunger. Where is it in my body? We observe. And we paused, processed, and we picked. Right? We paused to kind of make sure we know where we are. We're centered. We processed what just happened. And we picked a different behavior other than the buffering behavior. So that's where we've been so far. And tonight, we want to talk in this episode about executing. How do we execute that thing? How do we execute in that space. Okay? So take control and execute healthy habits. So what is the importance of executing, right? So that's a backdrop. So what's the importance of executing? Number one, we want to turn insight into action. We want to turn insight into action. We want to turn knowledge into power. Those are the first two steps or first two components of our Triple E formula. We educate, that's the knowledge, and we empower, that's the tool. So the execution step takes the insight that you have, right? You've clarified, okay, I'm not hungry. I'm frustrated, I'm angry. Where am I feeling it? In my body, I'm tense, right? So you get to identify that. I've paused and I've processed, and now I've picked what it is that I'm going to do, but it's still on paper. Right? So it does not take life until you do something. So the execution is the active arm of the C.O.P.E model. It is where the power comes in. The execution step is where the reflection transforms into behavior. You can keep thinking and processing and learning and all of those things forever, but if you don't put it into action, that's all it is. It's just theory at that point. And you continue to stay in that cycle, right? So you got to, in that scenario that I gave, you got to get off the stagecoach. You have to decide. You have to make a decision that I'm getting off, right? And you have to make a decision that I'm getting back on. So it transforms what we think. It transforms the insights that we've gained into behavior. Number one. Number two, it builds new habits. So every time we execute, every time we do it, every time we enact it, every time we step off the coach, every time we step back on the coach, every time we process the stuff, every time we make a decision and do something, we're building new habits. Every time you do it, you're rewiring the brain. Now, I think I said to you guys in one of the shows, I said the first time you do the C.O.P.E model, it's probably not going to work. Or it will work inefficiently. Why? Because it's not natural. It's not what you're normally used to. It's not the way you've been functioning. It's not the way you handle stuff now. One of the things one of my doctors, I think I told you that my doctor retired recently, but for years he's been trying to get me to come out with him to play golf. Big golfer, okay? And if you play golf, or actually if you played any kind of sport, then you know the first time you touch the ball, the basketball, the first time you hold a football, the first time you grab a ball to throw a baseball, the first time you hold the golf clubs. If you're going to hold them properly, often somebody has to come and show you how to do that. And when they show you at first, it feels kind of awkward the way they're telling you to do it. Why? Because you're not used to it. It's kind of like playing the piano. I remember when I started playing the piano, and they would tell me to stretch my finger and put this finger on that key. I just wanted to put the fingers wherever I wanted. But the instructor was saying, no, if you get into the habit of making sure that you put the fingers in the right place, you begin to develop what's called muscle memory. And muscle memory says that now when I sit at the piano and I put my fingers on the keys, the fingers go where they're supposed to be. Now, I'm not a great piano player, right? But I took enough lessons. I bet you my mom wishes I was a great piano player. Okay? Same thing for, you see my bass sitting back here. Do you see that right there? There it is, right there, right? So when I grab it, right, when the first time I took it, my fingers didn't go to the right places. And even now sometimes, whole nother conversation. But what you're doing when you're enacting it, when you're doing it, you're rewiring the brain. You're building new habits by repeatedly executing healthy actions that align with your values and with your goals. And after a while, you beat that pattern into the brain. It's called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity says that when we do things repeatedly, the brain is making new connections. There are new neurons. There are new neurons that are being built. So you're building new habits. And then you're avoiding buffering behaviors. Every time you execute, and I want you to know that you're not executing perfectly, you're executing poorly, you're executing horribly, you're executing incompletely. But every time you execute, you're putting another notch in breaking the cycle of buffering that you were used to. Emotional eating, scrolling on the computer, procrastination, any of those buffering behaviors. Every time you do it, you're breaking the cycle of buffering. Psychological, emotional friction. These are some concepts we got to introduce as we move into the discussion further. So psychological friction is a combination of the mental barriers that make it difficult for us to take action. There are a bunch of things in our mind that make it difficult to take action, even though intellectually we know the right action. It's kind of like when I was at the grocery store that night when I went to get the orange juice. In my head, I knew that I didn't need that carrot cake. And then when I got the carrot cake, I knew I didn't need the cheesecake. I knew it here. But what was it that pushed me to get it anyway? Right? That's the friction. That's the psychological barriers that come in. Remember, the brain will take the path of least resistance. It will say, I don't want to make a decision right now, so let's just have the cake. Because if I'm going to make the decision, that means I've got to stop, I've got to clarify, I've got to observe, I've got to, right? So it's going, and the brain's like, I don't want to do all that. Just get the cake, let's eat it, be done. We'll start tomorrow. So that's the psychological friction. The emotional friction is the resistance that you feel when you're trying to take action, especially during those moments of stress. When the amygdala has taken over, right? That hijacked amygdala that we talked about, that distress that you feel, the friction that's there. And often that stems from fear, discomfort, some deeply ingrained habit that we have used in the past that provide emotional relief. Remember that we don't just do things to do things. We do things because we've gotten some benefit from it in the past. Right? So people say, oh, I just like to eat ice cream. Oh, I just like to do that. Right? Well, if it was just a like and I taught you, hey, this thing is causing damage, then if that's all it was, it wouldn't be an issue. But it is an issue because it is providing a benefit. And the benefit that you're getting from it currently outweighs the knowledge, the power of the knowledge that you have. And it outweighs the small patterns that we've built because we're inconsistent often. Right? So even if it's a healthy behavior, then the emotional friction, the psychological friction makes it difficult to move. So what are some challenges in executing, in the execute step? Number one, comfort versus change. Taking action may mean stepping out of your comfort zone. Yep. And so we become very comfortable with where we are. And this, we see this, and not just in this space. We see this in people who are in jobs, people who are in relationships, people who are whatever they are. The situation they're in is uncomfortable, right? Or it's a little painful, but their general comfort is much stronger. They know, even though they're having some challenges, having some difficulties, they know this space. They're able to navigate this space. And so to step out of that space causes more discomfort for them than staying in the space. So one of the challenges is that they are making a decision of comfort versus change. Is the discomfort stronger than the discomfort of change? And for a lot of us, it's not. Yeah. Okay. The next thing is immediate gratification. So I don't even know what I was feeling, right? When I got the carrot cake. But I was feeling something, and I thought, hey, I could go walk. Hey, I could go journal. But the immediacy of what I was getting when I got in the car and on the way home, I started eating that cake. It was like, it was immediate, right then, right there. I didn't have to go put my sneakers on. I didn't have to go walking. Plus, it was late at night anyway, right? But I got it right then. Boom, done. So immediate gratification. So buffering behaviors offer that, or they seem to offer that thing right then. I shouldn't say seem to. In that moment, the buffering behavior, right, takes away that thing. Right? Makes us feel better. Yeah. And then emotional resistance. And this goes back to the friction that we just talked about, right? Even when you've clarified, observed, and you've paused and processed, your emotions may still resist taking that action. So you've gone through the whole process, and you're ready now to take the action, or you should be taking the action, and you don't. And so even though you've processed and you've clarified, you've observed, you've paused, you've gone through the whole steps, then it never becomes active. It never gets life because you haven't taken the action yet. So how do we improve the execute step? Well, number one, we start small. We start small. So don't expect monumental changes right away. Right? One thing at a time. One thing at a time. So if you are going, so things that are manageable, that are easy to implement. If your goal is to avoid emotional eating, your first step to execute might be to drink water. And just today, I was actually talking to some folks in the office, and and one of my team members who's there, and so she's with me a lot in the rooms, and so she was pointing out. She said, "Yeah, so you tell them not to fight it." Yeah, if you want one of my clients, if you're one of my patients, you'll hear me say that to you. I don't need you to fight the food. I don't need you to fight the candy. I don't need you to fight the cake. Because you're going to lose. Because you've not developed yet the ability to overcome the emotions that come with the thing. Right? And I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting when we talk to people within this space. All right, so you guys, I'm getting on my soapbox for a minute. So I think it's interesting when we talk to people in this space, and this is what I mean. In all other areas of our lives, I shouldn't say all, a lot of other areas. Let me say it that way. We give people training and we give them time. You go to a new job. Even though you have done that job for the last 10 years, when you go to the new organization, what do? They train you over time. Now, it may be a short training and a short time, but they don't just take you and plop you wherever you're supposed to be. They're like, hey, this is our manual. This is how we do it. These are this. And they go through the whole process. They train you over time. And I always find it interesting that we would take a person who has been doing something for 50 years, 60 years, and we bring them in to my office, and then we say to them, hey, when you come back next week, you need to be eating differently. All the stuff that you ever eaten before, you got to stop it. Hey, all the stuff that you've been doing. Yeah, anyway, you get the idea, right? So we go through this whole list and say, okay, all this stuff you got to stop. And you got to do it by next week when you come back. And if that patient, that client, that person comes back and they're not towing the line, they're not in the box that we've put them in, we say that that patient, here's the word, that patient is non-adherent. And I think that's an interesting process because it takes time. Small executable steps that are manageable over time as we build those neuroplastic connections. Right. So first of all, if you're trying to eat better, drink some water. The first time it happens, I tell people while you're eating the carrot cake, I need you to be wondering. I need you to start processing. Why am I eating the carrot cake? I don't need you to not eat it, but I need you to make a conversation with yourself while you're eating it. Hey, why am I eating this? Right? Because you're starting a process. The next thing is to prepare your environment. Now, this one, as you guys know, is a big one for me because in my space, I can't bring certain things. Now, if you saw my show on Friday, right, you guys saw, was it Friday? I think it was Friday, either Thursday or Friday last week. If you saw my check-in, you saw the things that I end up coming home with. Right? So the next thing we're going to do is clean up our space, clean the space, create an environment that makes it easier to execute. If you know that you buffer by eating, right, fill your area with healthy snacks. Get rid of the trigger foods. Right? So plan that when you're not in the middle of trying to execute. Because in the middle of trying to execute, you're not going to do it. But if last week when you were feeling good, when life was great, you went and say, hey, I'm preparing for next week. I'm preparing for down the road when I know something's going to happen. So you go and you get a bunch of whatever you have and you bring it into your space. Now, when you're triggered, it's easier to do it. Because remember, emotional and psychological friction says that, hey, I'm not going to do anything that's difficult. I'm going to do the simplest thing. So whatever's there, that's what I'm getting. So if you got candy and cookie, that's what I'm getting. I've got chips, I'm getting that. You got ice cream? Come on, let's do it. And if I have to make a decision to go beyond that to get it, the likelihood is better that I'm not going to eat the junk food. Now, I'll tell you, right, honesty, there have been times when I didn't have anything in the house, but what was going on in here was strong enough that I got dressed, I got in the car, and I drove to my favorite spot to get whatever it was. That's what I'm telling you, how strong this is. And so our goal is to create an environment that's conducive. And as you learn, right, so I don't drive that much anymore. Right, so fill your area with healthy things. If you want to exercise, have your workout clothes ready to go. Because if you wake up in the morning and then you're trying to do it, the likelihood of it getting done is lower. Reduce the friction and allow your brain to make the easy choice. I shouldn't say make the, because it's going to make the easy choice anyway. Allow it to make the easy, healthy choice. And then accountability. Tell somebody right here in this space. Tell somebody what you're doing. Tell somebody about the action you're planning, what you're going to be doing. Should be a friend, a partner, social media post. Having accountability makes it more likely you'll follow through. Knowing somebody else is out there, somebody's aware, we don't want to disappoint people. Like often, the things I don't get because I don't want to disappoint you guys. Right? Truth in broadcasting. Right? Because I sure enough wanted to grab another one of those hump cookies today. And this is funny. I need to get a picture of it. And I call them the hump cookies. And I forgot where they're from. I don't remember the name, but if you live here in town, you know what I'm talking about. It's a cookie and it has a little hump on top of it. Right? I call it the hump cookies. They are so good, y'all. Right. And as I was leaving the office today, I said I need to throw these away because I'm talking tonight about cleaning up my environment. So knowing somebody, knowing somebody's watching, right? Okay. So accountability, right? So once again, that's another one of the parts of our Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. Encouragement is accountability. Encouragement is community. Okay? And then we want to reflect on our why. What is the thing that is driving us? What is beneath us? What is the thing that is pushing us to do this? Okay. Now here's an interesting one. Okay, and let me. I'll tell you guys everything anyway. So one of the things that helps me is that I've got a young man at my house who's growing, and I want to be around for him. And the way I was going before, the amount of time that I would have had with him was getting shorter. And so whenever I think about that, even now as I'm telling you, there is a part of me that there's a little bit of pain that I feel because I think of all the time that I've wasted. Right? The shortening that I've done. But that's where, and you guys don't know that's where unlimited comes from. Right? When I talk about unlimited potential, and you always hear me say, it doesn't matter the choices that you've made back there. It doesn't matter the consequences of the choices you've made in the past. Right here, right now, you can make a decision to chart your future destiny by making a change right now. Right? Because back then it's done. I can't do anything about then. But right here, I can decide what I do going forward. Okay? So remind yourself of your why, because it will get you through those times when it gets challenging. Keep your long-term goals in mind, and this can help you overcome some of that short-term discomfort that you feel, right? Because you're like, I want that cookie so bad I can taste it. Yeah. Right? So those short-term discomforts. And then use habit stacking. And so one of the things that I want to do is, so we're going through the C.O.P.E model. And there are a couple of things that we're going to actually come back about, because if you remember, all of the components of the C.O.P.E model have as their initial component a pause. So when we're clarifying, in order for us to clarify, we got to pause. Remember, I gave the analogy of the paddles that they use when they shock somebody on TV, right? And the boom, right? Turn it up to 360 joules, boom, right? And so most people think that in that process, what we're doing is we're jump starting the heart, right? We're giving it a jolt to get it started. And actually, that's not the case. What we're doing is we're actually stopping the heart. Yeah, everybody's surprised when I say that. So we're stopping the heart because we're hoping that the part that's supposed to be in charge comes back and takes over the other parts of the heart. Because what's happening is different parts of the heart are doing different things, and they're not allowing the heart to do what it's supposed to do. Because it's supposed to pump like this, right? Poof, 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 poof. So all parts of the heart are supposed to contract in a rhythmic manner. But right now what's going is all parts of the hearts are going like this. Everybody's doing what they want to do. And there's a guy up here that's supposed to be the part that's in charge. And so what we do is everything is doing like that. We stop it. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait, because we're hoping that there's a part of the heart that's supposed to take over. We're hoping it comes back and that it takes over. So the pause is that process of stopping the amygdala hijack, right? Because the amygdala is doing what it wants to do, and we're pausing, we're stopping it, because now we want the prefrontal cortex, which is supposed to be in charge. We want it to come over. It's kind of like you see a tiger and you want to run, right? That's the amygdala. But the prefrontal cortex, if it has the power, it says, wait a minute, we see a tiger and we should be running, except that the tiger is in the zoo. So we don't have to run. See what happened? The amygdala still saw the same thing, but the prefrontal cortex gave it context. That boss yelled at you, but that doesn't mean that you're a terrible person. That relationship that I had, we just had an argument, but that doesn't mean that it's over. I was hurt because of whatever, but that doesn't mean that I have to eat. Right? Amygdala with the prefrontal cortex on top of it. And so when we're talking about behaviors, so what I want to do is I want to come back. We're going to talk about pause. That's where I started. We're also going to come back. We're going to talk about some tools that we're going to be using that we can use to help with the entire C.O.P.E model, but specifically the execute part. Okay. But one of the tools is this idea of habit stacking. And habit stacking is what you're tying an action to something you already do. So I finish eating, you already do that, and I'm going to go walk. So every time you finish eating now, it begins to associate with walking. Or I'm going to brush my teeth, and then I'm going to journal. Right? So you got a new habit. So you tie a behavior to something you already do. If you're trying to reduce emotional eating, you could execute a habit that says, I'm going for a walk right after dinner, since dinner already is a part of it, right? By linking the new behavior to existing one, the likelihood is that you will get something done, right? And so we'll talk about, there's another concept that, and I'll just introduce it here, but we'll come back and talk about it. And what it is you come up with a list of ifs and then. So if I get angry, I'm going to breathe twice. I'm going to take 2 deep breaths. If I get frustrated, I'm going to go walk for 2 minutes. If I am bored, I'm going to put on my sneakers. Notice I didn't say go walking. They just put on sneakers. So if and then. So you're doing an action. So it's automatic. You don't have to think about it anymore. So next time that happens, right, you've already got this list. Okay, hey, I'm angry. I'm supposed to go do this. Hey, I'm frustrated. I'm supposed to go do this. It's already done. Your brain doesn't have to make any decisions. All right, so we'll come back and talk about that. But habit stacking. So you're linking the new behavior to the habit that you already have. And then I want to talk a little bit about the role of repetition in the execute step. Right? Execution is about consistency, not perfection. First idea I want you to get. So every time you do it, So I hear my son out there, and he's practicing piano. He's practicing a piano. So he's got a piece he's working on. Okay. And one of the things that I've told him is, and I see this a lot of, for people who practice whatever they're practicing, but music is, I think, that's the thing that's closest to me. And so what they'll do is they'll get a piece, they'll put it on the piano or whatever instrument, and they'll start going through it, and they'll get through the first half of the page, the first measure, the first, right? And then they'll stop and they'll go back to the top and they'll play it. And then they stop and they go back to the top and they play it. And they're always stopping at the same point. And what I say to them and to him is, no, play the whole thing. He said, but I don't know it. I said, that's okay. Just play the whole thing. Right? Because as you play the whole thing, you're going to make mistakes. But when you come back the next time and you play the whole thing again, guess what? Those mistakes that you made before, they're going to smooth out. And as you go through the entire piece each time, it is becoming more rich and better, and the mistakes are going away. So every time you go through an action, whether it's perfect or imperfect, you are still building on the previous. Every time you execute a healthy action, you train your brain to respond differently to emotional triggers. The actions that once felt difficult will become automatic, kind of like holding a golf club, or putting your fingers on the piano, or holding a bass. You get muscle memory as you do it. Each time it becomes better, more simpler for you to do. The effort that's required gets better over time. You don't have to do as much because the brain is almost like going through that process. It's like, oh yeah, we're supposed to do this. Oh yeah, I'm angry, so we're supposed to go walk for 2 minutes. Oh, I'm frustrated, so I'm supposed to take 2 breaths. Every time you do it, you're building muscle memory. And this is the power of repetition when it comes to the execution and building habits. Okay? And then what are some questions? So in the execute phase, of course, we're executing. And then after, not at the time, afterwards, we want to evaluate how we did with the choice that we made. So did the action help manage the emotion? The thing that I did when I went walking, when I took the breath, when I journaled, did it help to manage that emotion? Or how did I feel immediately after taking the action? Did I feel like a weight has been taken off my shoulder? Did I feel calmer? What was the long-term impact of that choice? Did it help me reach my goal? Is there anything I would do differently next time? And then what have I learned about myself from this experience? Okay? So we're executing. That's the process. We clarify. Come back over here. We clarify, we observe. Okay, I'm not hungry. What just happened that's triggered me? Right? So we're thinking through the process. We observe, where do I feel it in my body? Are my ears hot? Is my shoulder tense? Is my heart rate going up? Am I breathing fast? Do I have butterflies in my stomach? And then I name it, right? I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm bored, I'm tired. And then I pause, right, to assess how I'm feeling physically, mentally, emotionally. I pause, I process it, and then I pick something, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to walk, I'm going to do deep breathing, I'm going to do meditation, I'm going to do yoga, I'm going to do journaling. So I'm picking a behavior that's different from my normal buffering behavior. So I normally eat, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something else, right? Because now we got a bunch of things in our bag, right? So we need to go through that bag and talk about some of those things. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I get up and I go execute it. Because if I think about it, that's great, but it doesn't get life until I do it. And that's what we talked about today, executing the process. How do we go How do we overcome some of that? What are some things that we could put in place to help us better able to execute? And so here's a quick example. Let's go through, right? So you've had a stressful day at work, and you go, and your go-to response is to grab snacks and veg out in front of the TV. But today you're using the C.O.P.E model. Hey, you heard Dr. Woode, right? You came on, new year, new you. And so you decide, right, that you're going to go through the process. So you realize that the trigger is stress and you're not hungry. You just want to escape the stress. You just want to veg out. Okay? So you observe, your body feels tense, and you recognize that you're craving support, you're craving comfort. You want somebody to put their arms around you. You just want somebody to say, hey, it's going to be all right. You pause and you process, right? You take a deep breath because that's what you decide you're going to do. You pause for a moment and you decide instead of snacking, you'll go for a walk to clear your mind. That's what you decide you're going to do. And then instead of heading to the kitchen, which is what we do, we think about it, say, yeah, I probably should go to the walk, but I'm going to the kitchen anyway. You put on your walking shoes and you step outside. Now, here's the thing. You may not have even gone for a walk, but you put on the shoes and you stepped outside. And you committed to the action, even though it feels unfamiliar at first, even though it doesn't feel normal, even though it's like grabbing that club, right? Or putting your hand on that instrument. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel normal. It doesn't feel natural. But the more you do it, the better it is. And you follow through with your walk, allowing your body and mind to reset. Yep. So that's just a walkthrough of the whole model, the whole process. Now, we're going to come back. We're going to have to come back because we've got a couple of other things that we're going to talk about as we round this out, as we give some tools. There is a process with the execute part that we want to talk about. But I want you to get that this takes practice. This takes practice. This takes practice. And my challenge to you is that you find some time through the day, and I think I mentioned setting your alarm, and 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and supper is what I do. Well, it's not breakfast, lunch. It's like 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. My alarm goes off in my phone. It says, are you willing at this time to do what it takes to be successful? So that's my mindfulness monitor, right? So put it up on your walls so that it reminds you, right? Because you got to practice it when you're not in the heat of the amygdala doing its thing. And remember that you have unlimited potential to make decisions, make changes right now, right here in this space. You don't have to do what you've done and get what you've been getting like it's always been. There is unlimited potential at your fingertips. You can access that, and now going forward, you can make a decision that charts the destiny that you want into the future. And that happens with the Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the shows that we do. We educate with the blogs, the podcasts. We empower with the tools that we're learning, like we're learning the C.O.P.E model, the HEAT model, and we encourage with the community that you are a part of. Yep. And then, remember the HEAT model says these are the things that trigger us. These are the food triggers. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. The things that we do on a normal basis, the routines that we've gotten into. Habits, emotions, right? When emotions get high enough, they're going to push through. When that amygdala starts to vibrate, when the amygdala takes over, it's hard. And if we're not careful, it just derails all that we have done. And then access, having things just around us. We got to clean up our environment. And then the taste, the bliss point, the perfect combination of sugar, salt, and fat that says, hey, I ate that. I just can't have one. I got to have some more. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. And our pillars, the pillars of reversing diabetes: decrease our insulin, suppress our appetite, and reduce sugar. Decrease insulin, suppress appetite, reduce sugar. If we do those things, if we're able to do that, then our diabetes is, we've reversed it. When you come on, when you show up in this space, remember, join the challenges. Each month we have a different challenge. Each month we're going through a challenge. Don't just let this be stuff on the show, on the shelf that you listen to, right? In order for it to take effect, you gotta practice. Just like we talked about a minute ago, right? It is just theory if it's on the paper. If it's in the video, it's just theory. It doesn't get life until you put it into practice. And the challenges are the ways that you can do that. You can exercise that that muscle, right? You get the muscle memory. Then share your story. Let us know what's going on. If you're fasting, if you have been doing some stuff in this space, if you're getting benefit in terms of weight, blood sugars are better, you're off medication, your doctor says he don't understand. Like when I talked to my doctor, he was like, you're doing this without medication? I was like, yeah. He's like, wow. I was like, yeah. Okay? So tell your story. When we see you do it, we know we can do it as well. And if you're having some challenge, having some humps or bumps, we can rally around you, let you know that you are not by yourself. And then tell somebody, invite a friend. Don't just keep this to yourself. There are over 1 billion people on the planet that have diabetes or pre-diabetes. You can be a voice for change. You can let them know there's a space where we can go, where we can learn how to get better. We can learn how to change. We can learn how to chart our metabolic destiny. Your family doesn't have to keep having heart attacks, doesn't have to keep going on dialysis. Everybody doesn't have to keep losing their legs. Everybody doesn't have to have blood sugar issues or high cholesterol. Everybody doesn't have to have hypertension. Your family, your doctor's office, your church, your community center, wherever you are, you can be the voice for change. Yep. And so just excited that you are here in this space. I'm always excited to be here with you. And just excited to change, to be able to share and to learn and be accountable together. We'll be having our community meetup coming up on the 30th. So if you've not already done so, make sure that you do that. Make sure you get into the space. You'll see that link coming over here into the chat. Make sure you register. I know several of you that I see out there right now have already registered. It's a fun time. It's part of the C.O.P.E formula, right? So we educate, we empower, and we encourage. The encouragement comes from the community. And then, of course, our playlists that are out there, how to reverse diabetes. Let's see. Yeah, how to reverse diabetes, how to fast. And we will be doing a fasting episode coming up. This week, the 2 of our episodes are going to be pre-recorded because we're going to be doing some different things. So join us. Is it tomorrow or Wednesday? We'll have one. And then, of course, for the rest of the week, we'll have our shows, but they will be pre-recorded. On Saturday, this week, Video from the Vault. And then on Sunday morning, we'll have our This Week in Review at 6 o'clock. Okay? All right. So that's going to be it now. If you got to go, that's fine. But I think I told you last week that I've got the new feature that we're going to put back in, and that is our thought for the day. So I'm going to go ahead and let's do that right now, and then I'll come back and we will close out. And so the thought for the day is this: the strength of resilience. Life is filled with challenges, both big and small. Whether it's a health issue, a personal setback, or an unexpected change, we're all bound to face something, some moment that tests our resolve. But what truly defines us isn't the challenge itself. It's not what's happening. It's how we respond to them. That's where resilience comes in. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity, to recover from setbacks, and to keep moving forward. It's a skill that we can cultivate, and it's one that helps us navigate life's invitations to be better. It's one that helps us through what's inevitably going to come. The storms that show up, we can get through those with greater ease. Resilience doesn't mean we won't experience them, and it doesn't mean that we won't have pain. Those are parts of life, and I've got to accept that. You have to accept it as well. But it does mean that when we fail, when we fall, when we stumble, we don't have to stay down for long. Now, you might be thinking, but how do I become resilient? How do I get more of this? Resilience is about building toughness. It's built through mindset and practice. And today I want to offer a few steps to help you cultivate your resilience in your life. Number one, embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. Often we see challenges as things to be avoided. Oh, I don't want that. It's too difficult. I'm not going to do that because. But what if you could see them as opportunities? Every difficult situation we face teaches us something. When we shift our mindset, we see challenges as chances to grow. We gain power over our situation. It's no longer something that happened to us, but it's something that helps us shape our future. Take a moment to think about a challenge that you faced recently. How did it impact you? What did you learn? Even if the outcome wasn't what you were expected and what you hoped for. What did you gain from that experience? This reflection is key to building resilience because it helps you to see the value of adversity. Number two, cultivate a support system. Resilience doesn't mean going it alone. In fact, those who are resilient often have strong support systems around them, whether it's a friend, a family, a community. Leaning on other people during those times can provide strength that you didn't think you knew you had, and the strength that you need to keep going. Don't be afraid to ask for help or to share your struggles with those around you. Resilience doesn't mean you have to carry the weight all by yourself. In fact, you shouldn't. But it gives you shoulders that you can lean on. Think about your support system. Who are the people you can turn to? Who are the people that can help you get through things? If you find that your support system needs strengthening, consider how you can cultivate those relationships or even reach out to a counselor or a mentor or start a support group for yourself. And then number three, focus on what you can control. When we're faced with difficult situations, it's easy to get overwhelmed and think about all the things that are going on that's out of our control. But resilience is about networking. It's about narrowing our focus to the things that we can control. This could be your attitude, it could be your effort, or how you choose to react to a situation. By focusing on the controllable, we regain a sense of power and reduce the feelings of hopelessness. So today, take a moment and identify what's within your control. What small step can you take, even right now, as you are in the process of facing adversity, to move forward? It doesn't have to be big, just something that helps you take back the power. Yeah. So, resilience is a journey. Resilience isn't about you building something overnight. And if it's not, then it's a destination, maybe? It's a journey. It's about the continually learning process. It's about the skills that you gain. It's about the interactions that you have. So whether the storms of life are right now or they're coming, or you just come out of it, you're able to stand strong, learn, and keep moving forward. Each of us has the capacity for resilience. It's in how we think, it's in how we respond, and how we care for ourselves that matters. Today, take a moment to reflect. How have you demonstrated resilience in your life? What challenges have you faced and grown from? And how can you continue building resilience as you move forward? And that is our thought for today. All right, all right. So thank you all. Like I said, I'm always glad when I am able to hang out with you and be in this space. So thank you for joining me. We will see you at our check-in later this month or this week. We will see you on Saturday for our video from the vault, on Sunday for This Week in Review, and then keep an eye out for our shows. If you're new, go ahead and drop us a message. Let us know what's going on. And even as we go through the week, let us know what's happening. Sign up for our community meetup that's coming up, and then we will see you when we see you. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level in this year. New year, new you. Good night, everybody.